So a day after tomorrow is Shavasa B'Tammuz, and we are entering the 3 weeks. 3 weeks of Avelus, of mourning, Al Churban Beis Mikdashenu V'Sifartenu. So I've been asked by many individuals, many Rabbanim, many communities in the world, in this period of pandemic of COVID-19, do we fast on Shavasa B'Tammuz and on Tisha B'Av? And just the day before yesterday, I had a call from the Rabbanim in Mexico City, one of the most beautiful communities in the Jewish world. And the Rabbanim were contemplating, and they asked my opinion, do we fast in a time like this? Judging by precedents, we know many Gedolei Yisrael ruled in the cholera epidemics that people should not fast. So at the beginning of today's Shiur, just a brief historical analysis and overview of a very well-known story about Rabbi Yisrael Salanter. Story that has various different versions. So we'll speak about the story of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter, and then we will deal with the halachic approach, fasting in a time of Mageifa. So it is brought that one of the cholera outbreaks, and there were many, cholera was a terrible disease, and it swept through Europe again and again and again. We have the letter of Rabbi Akiva Eiger and other Gedolim Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph. I didn't figure out exactly when that was in the Goyish date. Tov Kuf Tzadik Aleph, Tov Reish Tes, Tov Reish Lamed Gimel. So the story with Rabbi Yisrael Salanter goes back to Tov Reish Tes, and that is 170 years back. And it was Yom Kippur, and Rabbi Baruch Epstein was the son of the Orcha Shulchan, tremendous Talmid Chacham. He was a banker. Many Choshev Kehilas wanted to elect him as a Rav, but he preferred, like the Shittas Rambam, he provided for his family as a banker, but he was a great Talmid Chacham. And in Sefer Makor Boruch, second volume, Perek Yud Aleph, he tells the story that Be'itzumai Shel Yom HaKippurim, Rabbi Yisrael Salanter went up on the bima with a cup of wine and a piece of cake, and he made kiddush, and he ate cake. So it's an amazing story. V'tohim kol hu'ir. Same version is brought in an article written by Rabbi Chilanka Weinberg, the Shlit Eish, who was a Godel B'Yisrael. It's a strange story, I must say, because even a choyle sheyesh by sekana that needs to eat in Yom Kippur eats pachas mikashir, doesn't eat a shear. And if you made kiddush, obviously kiddush b'mokam suda, you need to eat a shear. I know that this is not a gavaldige kasha because kiddush rabbi, kiddush in the morning is just a bite of priya gofen. So if you don't eat a kazayas, but still it's kiddush is kiddush, you make a bite of priya gofen. It's not mekadosh Shabbos like Leil Shabbos, so we don't have a problem of a brocha levatala, but still, if you make kiddush, probably you eat a shia, and even a chodesh yesh b'sekona. Yom Kippur eats pochas mikashir, kal v'chomer chodesh yesh b'sekona, kal v'chomer, people that are healthy. The psak of Rabbi Yisrael Salanter was that everybody, he called upon the entire kehillah, everyone should go home and eat. So there's a very well-known brisker of Shvisa is also a brisker of Rambam, quoting Rab Chaim. Rab Chaim said that a chodesh yesh b'sekona eats kedarkoi, not pochas mikashir. And the halacha that we find in Siman Tov Reish Yud Ches is only, and I quote the Lashon of the Shulchan Aruch, choyle she'im lo yochel efshar sheyichbad olav chol yoy v'yistakein. So the brisker of, in the name of his great father, differentiates between two different situations. One is his life is in imminent and immediate danger, and he eats kedarkoi. A choyle who presently His life is not in danger. But doctors think if he won't eat, then his health might deteriorate, and he might be in danger. That is the one that needs to eat poches mikashir. Minchas Osha Moedim Chelek Aleph, in various different sources in my tshuvis, I very clearly wrote Ein halacha kibriskarov, even though I'm aware that the Nasir brings this very same stuff from Reb Chaim Volozhiner. So two great Reb Chaims, Reb Chaim Brisker and his predecessor Reb Chaim of Volozhin, Godel Talmidei Hagro, both have the same stuff. V'yafar piken, Ein halacha kemoisem. All the other poskim maintain that even a choilish yesh b'sekon, if he doesn't need to eat Shiur, should eat poches mikashir, v'kach halacha brura v'halacha pshuto. So it would be very strange to assume and to believe that Rabbi Sol Salanta paskin and Yom Kippur for everyone. Not only those that fell ill, but everyone should eat Shiur. I put far more emphasis and significance to what Gedolei Yisrael write in their Sforim and their Tshuvos than storytellers. So Rabbi Yankov Weinberg was really a gadol, but this is a story. It's not in one of his Tshuvos, and the same regarding the Makor Baruch. There's another sefer that writes this story, and that's sefer Tnuas HaMusar, which usually is very reliable. And the way he tells the story when he writes the biography of Reb Sol Salanter is that he didn't make Kiddush and he ate poches mikashir. And he quotes that testimony in the name of Reb Sol Salanter's son, that he testified he was meyed that his father ate poches mikashir. He brings version number 3 in that Sefer Tnuas HaMusar, that the B'Sol Salanta didn't even eat, but he just paskined for others. He went up on the bima and he declared and he paskined everybody should go home and eat, but he, la'atzmoi, he was machmir. So, whatever the story might be, so when a Chodesh Shesh B'Zakona needs to eat in Yom Kippur, Bechlali doesn't make Kiddush. That's the Mogen Avraham, Siman Tov Reish Yud Ches, agreed upon by the Chayot, the Shulchan Aruch, the Mishnah Brura, and Sivkot Nechoftes. Rabbi Kiva Eger, there is Machadesh, Yom Kippur, Shechali is B'Shabbos, a Chodesh Shesh B'Zakona does need to make Kiddush. But once again, this controversy, this argument, is more relevant Leil Shabbos or Leil Yom Kippurim. However, and this is an interesting point, if a person didn't make Kiddush Leil Shabbos, Kiddush in the morning, he does say the Brocha Mekadosh HaShabbos. So Kiddush HaRav is only about a Priyagofen if he didn't say Kiddush Leil Shabbos. However, when we're doing it Yom Kippur Shechali is B'Shabbos, this is a big arichos, and I could, go on and on dealing with the concept of Kiddush, but that's not the focus of today's Shiur. I would like to deal halacha lamaisa. What is the din of people, healthy people, in this time? Should they fast or not? So we have the story of Rabbi Sol Salanter. We don't know exactly what he did. Did he eat Shiur? Did he make Kiddush? Didn't he make Kiddush? Did he eat poches mikashir? So the 3 sources I quoted are not halachic sources. Rabbi Chil Yankov Weinberg, not in his Tshuvos, but rather this article is printed in a sefer called Lefrokim. The Makor Baruch, who is, once again, it's just his memoirs, his thoughts, stories, and Tnuas HaMusar. But we find this story in Tshuvos as well. Shalos Tshuvos Mitzpah Arya, Oire Chaim Simen Mem Aleph. The Mitzpah Arya was Rab Arya Lei Broida, and he was Rav in Lemberg, in Lvov. And in his Tshuvos he says, I remember as a younger man, I was in Grodno, and I heard that in Vilna there was a huge controversy. Yom Kippur, Tov Reish Tes, Rabbi Sol Salanta gets up at the Yoron Kodesh, and he eats, and he demands from everyone to go home and eat The Gedolei Ha'ir disagreed with him. Who were Gedolei Ha'ir? Shalosh Teshuvas Reishis Bikurim, and that is Rabbi Tzalal HaKohen Vilna. Since the days of the Vilna Gaon, Vilna didn't have a Rav. Obviously, Mishum Kvoidoi Shel Oisei Zoken, the Gaon was one and only. He was, if we could ever say, a Godel Adoyer. Well, that description definitely fitted the Vilna Gaon. So since the days of the Gaon, Vilna didn't really have a Rav, but there always were the Gedolim that lived in the community. And Rabbi Tzalal and Rabbi Shlomo HaKohen were two brothers. Both were Gedolei Yisrael. Rabbi Tzalal HaKohen disagrees, and he writes, hundreds of people in our community had cholera, and none of them died. So he disagreed with this psak that everyone should eat. So at the time, this was a major controversy, and the Mitzpeh Aryeh tells the story. He heard as a younger man. What is more important, he writes that the Shoyel HaMeisha of Rabbi Yosef Shol Natanson, who was the Pesach Adar, paskined that everyone should go and eat. Another halachic source in which we find this very same story is Shalosh Teshuvas HaRabaz. The Rabaz was one of the greatest Gedolim in Romania, pre-Holocaust Europe. Rabbi Yemen Zev Shafran. His tshuvas are amazing, and in Siman Yud Aleph he brings a different version to this story. Rabbi Sol Salanta was not only the founder of the Musar movement, he was a tremendous Ilui, and he truly was one of the Gedolei Ador. Because of his tremendous endeavor of Musar, he is more known and famous for his Musar activities, but he definitely was one of the Gedolei Yisrael. So according to Rav Shafran and Teshuvas HaRabaz, and Rav Sol Salanta's idea was that everybody should aser food on himself, b'neder b'koinim, and ein iser chalal iser, and koinim is only a lav and it's not a chorus, to alleviate the chumrah of achila b'yom HaKippurim. And Rav Shafran quotes that many Gedolim disagreed. So once again, I do not want to enter different areas in the short year that we have today. But this is an eitzah which is very questionable based on the sugi in Yevamis that Ein Iser Chalal Iser is only regarding Malchus and Korban, but the Iser inevitably is Chal. So Igros Moshe, Reb Moshe also brings the story of Rabbi Sol Salanta, Oira Chaim, Chela Gimel, I think it is Siman Tzadik Aleph. So this story is a very well-established story. And beyond doubt, Rabbi Sol Salanta paskined that even healthy people should eat. Rabbi Tzalal HaKohen Vilna disagreed, but this psak is also based on the Chassam Sofer, Chelik Vav Siman Chav Gimel. That's a famous shuva in which the Chassam Sofer writes his opinion about Toich Kedei Achilas Pras. How much time is Toich Kedei Achilas Pras? So the Chassam Sofer, the Shoyel HaMeisha of Rabbi Sol Salanta, all ruled that in a time of Magefim, when cholera was rampant, psak was even healthy people should eat. We find this psak in Mishnah Brura not regarding Yom Kippur, but regarding Tisha B'Av in Siman Tov, Kuf, Nun, Daled, Sivav. So Sivav and Shulchan Aruch Siman Tov, Kuf, Nun, Daled, the Silchos Tisha B'Av, the Mechaber writes that a Yoledes or a Choyle shetzorech lechoil ain't tzorech oimed ela machina noise meyad. The b'mukim choyli lo yigazru rabbanan. So I quoted the Lashon of the Shulchan Aruch. And this Lashon is very significant, but first of all, the content. What does the Shulchan Aruch say? Yom Kippur, only a chodesh yesh v'sekona could eat, because the only thing that overrides the Isur D'Oraisa of Achila B'Yom Kippurim is Pikuach Nefesh. So it goes without saying, it is not permissible for any choyle to eat unless he is defined as a choyle sheyesh bo sakona. How do we know he's a choyle sheyesh bo sakona? We ask the doctors. And that is what we define as oimed, which is evaluation or assessment. If the doctors evaluate that his life is in danger, then he must eat. But Tisha B'Av, you do not need to be a choyle sheyesh bo sakona. Even a choyle she'ein bo sakona eats on Tisha B'Av. Amazing tshuva in Chasam Sofer, I think it's Kuf Nun Zayin, Tshuva Sarachaim, the Chasam Sofer says, it once transpired that he didn't feel well on Tisha B'Av, and he needed to eat, and he ate. And he wrote a tshuva, could he still be oile l'toila, even though he had to eat on Tisha B'Av? So Tisha B'Av, even a chodesh she'ein bo sakona, is entitled to eat and drink on Tisha B'Av. And the Shulchan Aruch says, therefore, ein tzorach oimed. We don't need doctors to evaluate. If he's ill, he's ill. If he's sick, he's sick. He knows whether he's sick. He feels sick. And therefore, ein tzorech oimed elo machila noisa miyad. The mamukum choyli loy gazru rabbanon. So in a few moments we will discuss what does that mean, mamukum choyli loy gazru rabbanon. But the Biur Halacha quotes a sefer Pischei Olam. Not everybody is familiar with the sefer. He was one of the Gedolim in Litter. He was older than the Mishnah Brura. And the Mishnah Berurah quotes him. Usually when the Mishnah Berurah quotes Shalos HaTshuvos, it is the Sefer Pischei Olam. Because my impression is that the Chofetz Chaim didn't have many Svarim. So whenever he quotes Binyan Tzion, Shoel HaMeishav, he usually quotes the Pischei Olam that quotes those Svarim. So the Mishnah Berurah brings in the name of the Pischei Olam, B'mokom she'ein amagefa chazoka kol kach. If the epidemic is not rampant, if it's not so terrible, then we should paskin for people, they should eat poches mikishia, which is a tremendous chiddush, because nowhere do we find poches mikishia, only by Yom Kippur. In Erchos Tisha B'Av, neither in the Shulchan Aruch nor in the Gemara, nowhere do we find the concept of Shiurim, only by Yom Kippur. And in the Poskim as well, we do not find that a choyle that needs to eat Tisha B'Av or Shar Tzoymis, other fast days, eats poches mikishia. So when you analyze the Biur Halacha, actually quoting the Pischei Olam, it is clear that he's not dealing with a choyle. The choyle that eats on Tisha B'Av doesn't eat poches mikishia. The Pischei Olam, just like the Misol Salanter and the other sources I quoted, paskined that even healthy people should eat on Tisha B'Av in the times of a Magefa. So the Mishnah Berurah in Biur Halacha, in parentheses, in Sagrayim, writes, Kach yesh lahoires l'shoyel, she'ein hatanes nekar legamri, v'rachmona libe boi. Which is very interesting. So this is a recommendation. And the logic behind this recommendation of the Pischei Olam quoted by the Mishnah Berurah is, after all, this person is healthy. So why would he eat? I'll explain in a few moments why he would eat, but because the Psak refers to healthy people, so if we could minimize the damage, so if you don't eat a shiur tach kedei achilas pas, you're still considered b'chlal hamisanim. You're still considered as if you're fasting. So why not be on the safe side? After all, this person feels well. Nevertheless, he got a psak, he should eat and drink, but he's well, he's not a choyle. And therefore, he needs to eat poches mikishia. The Bahoche lo nekar atanis legamre v'rachmana libaboya. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants our heart. After all, this is a tragic day of mourning. Chorban beis mikdashenu v'sivotenu. Would you just go about eating and drinking without any limitation? So that's the chiddush that we find in the Mishnah Berurah. Do we find any other source regarding Tisha B'Av poches mikishia? Yes, Shalos HaTshuvos Marcheshes. He was a contemporary of the Mishnah Berurah. Reb Chanach Heinech Aigish was one of the Gedolim in Vilna. And once again he writes that he was ill, he didn't feel well, and he ate poches mikishia. Tshuvas Chasam Sofer, the tshuva I quoted before, the Chasam Sofer deals with the question he had to eat on Tisha B'Av, and his suffix was, could he be Yoda the Torah, because the Shulchan Aruch quotes, and the source of this halacha is in Marik, Sheni Chamishi V'Sheni Tanis B'Hab, you can be Yoda the Torah if you didn't fast. So the Chasam Sofer writes 3 reasons why he thinks this halacha does not apply to a Choyle Shetzorach Lechol B'Tisha B'Av. And because the Chasam Sofer actually wrote the tshuva to himself, and he was somewhat an Agea B'Davar, Chasam Sofer writes in that tshuva that he consulted with the Beis Din of Pressburg. They should paskin for him. And as you could all imagine what their psak was, yes, they definitely agreed with their Rebbe, with the Chasam Sofer. Argument number 1 in the tshuva of the Chasam Sofer is, even a Choyle Shetzorach Lechol B'Tisha B'Av, but still, he's not allowed to eat more than his medical condition requires. So he needs to eat until he feels better, but not more than that. And if it's enough to drink, it's also lechol. Then he's still prohibited to eat, which is a big chiddush. Because if not for the argument of the Chasam Sofer, we would say, if you ate, you ate, and it's no longer a tzayim. But even the Chasam Sofer doesn't go to the extent of saying Shiurim. He does not write one needs to eat pochos megishia. He just writes that if you ate and you're satisfied and you feel well, then you're not allowed to eat more. Misha ochel shum, yachza v'yochel shum. But the Chasam Sofer doesn't write anything about Shiurim, and that's a chiddush that we find in Marcheshes on one hand and the Bir Halacha on the other hand, that as I explained, the Bir Halacha deals with healthy people. What is important to stress from that same Bir Halacha? The Bir Halacha writes, and we should recommend people they should not leave their homes, stay at home. And if you need to leave your home, cover your face, your mouth, and your nose. So, in Eretz Yisrael, to my terrible dismay, we're in the midst of a second wave, and numbers are surging from day to day. We have more than 1,000 people falling ill, being infected every day. Many of them in the Shiurim community. And to my dismay, first wave, people were more embracing and following the rules. The vast majority from people in Israel follow the rules, even more than in some non-Shiurim communities. But there are still big pockets in Yerushalayim and elsewhere. People don't wear masks, and they disregard the rules. Some people feel what the Tzionim are going to tell us what to do. No, they won't adhere to the rules of Misrad HaBriyut. And I say to them, forget about Misrad HaBriyut. Forget about the Tzionim. You do admire the Mishnah Brura, right? So just look in the Bir Halacha, Siman Tov Kuf Nun Daled. It's exactly what Misrad HaBriyut says. Don't leave your house. Stay at home. And if you need to leave your house, cover your mouth and nose. So it's somewhat difficult to breathe when you have a mask, as we all know. So I'm not such a young person. And when I'm in shul, when I'm in koil, when I'm outside of my home, I always wear a mask. And my mask covers my mouth and nose. So that's exactly what the Mishnah Brura writes. Many people cover their mouth, but they don't cover their nose. Well, you need to cover your nose to safeguard yourself, cover your mouth to safeguard others. But if you sneeze or cough, you're putting other people in danger if your nose isn't covered as well. So anyway, the Mishnah Brura in that very same paragraph also speaks about, besides the question of eating, also stay at home. Lech ami boi b'chadorecho, the Gemara Bava Samech that I quoted 1,000 times in the past 4 months. And also about wearing masks. So when we put together all these sources, what is very clear, even on Yom Kippur, healthy people should eat on Yom Kippur, either kashir or pochos mikashir. Tisha B'Av, and Tisha B'Av Echmiru Bokumoy B'Yom Kippurim in various different areas. Tisha B'Av, B'Halacha, according to Pischei Olam, even healthy people should eat on Tisha B'Av. Mishnah Berurah recommends Poches Mikashir. Kal v'choy mishavasa b'tamus. V'afal piken, my psak is, I do not see any reason for people with a corona period to eat on Shavasa b'tamus or Tisha B'Av, and I will explain why. What is the rationale of this psak? Why should healthy people violate the tzayim and eat on Tisha B'Av? Yom Kippur, which is an Issur Koros. Two different approaches, two different rationales. Both are valid. Many Gedolim were afraid, and obviously that was the medical philosophy in their day and age. You feel well, that doesn't mean you're healthy. You might have contracted the virus. You might be ill, but the symptoms did not yet appear, and they will, either in a few minutes or in a few hours or in a few days. So the fact that you're feeling well does not mean that you are well. And maybe this virus is lurking in your body even though you're not yet aware of it, and therefore their psak was, it's a suffik pikuach nefesh, sfek sveike shel pikuach nefesh, lechumra. Shulchan Aruch writes in Siman Shin Chof Tes and L'chas Shabbos, whether it's one suffik or two sfekes, call it sfekes. All the sfekes in the world were machma by pikuach nefesh. So the fact that you feel well might not be relevant. You might be ill and you might have contracted the virus and it's somewhere lurking in your system. Argument number 2, Pliny needs to eat to safeguard Almighty. No one likes to eat on Tisha B'Av, definitely not on Yom Kippur. And from my experience, when I paskin for a chole sheyesh b'sakona to eat in Yom Kippur, they all would like to fast. None of them is happy to eat. And sometimes they beg and plead. Maybe I should try. If I'll feel well, maybe I should start fasting. There's an amazing letter written by the Belzer of Reb Shila Belzer to his Machutin the Tzemach Tzadik, who was the Vishnitzer Rebbe. This goes back 200 years almost. So the Vishnitzer Rebbe got upset from his physicians, from his doctors, that he needs to eat on Yom Kippur. And he was very saddened, profoundly troubled. How would he eat in Yom Kippur? And his Mechutin, the Belzer, writes him a letter. And in his letter he writes that it happened with the Sar Sholem of Belz, the first Belzer of Reb Sholem Belzer, that the doctors told him he needs to eat in Yom Kippur. And his great son, Reb Shila Belzer, testifies and writes that when my father ate in Yom Kippur, he ate b'simcha rabba, the same as he ate kazayas matzah b'leil haseder. And he explained that I am going to be Makayim, the greatest mitzvah to say in the Torah, v'nishmartem oid lenafshe seichem. It's a greater mitzvah than be'erev toichlu matzos. So the same simcha that enveloped him when he ate matzah b'leil haseder, that was the simcha in which he ate on Yom Kippur. It's amazing. So the Belzerov writes that in a letter to his Mechutin, the Vishnitzer Rebbe. But no one is happy to eat in Yom Kippur, and they're all profoundly saddened. And Gedolei Yisrael at the time were afraid, if the healthy people will fast, so will the others. They will try. They will want to fast. And the only way to guarantee that those that are ill will fast is only if we give a psak, everyone should eat. And this brings us to a fascinating question. Now let me share with you a crazy shaila that I had many years ago, which is uncommon, but I actually printed this tshuva. I think it's printed in Minchas Osher Shalas Tshuvas, I'm not sure, but it definitely was popularized in various different ways. Many years ago, I was asked for a very choshev, a rabbinical family from Bnei Brak. Their father was ill, and the doctor said he needs to eat and drink on Yom Kippur. But he was very frum. He wouldn't eat and drink on Yom Kippur. The only way they could convince him to eat and drink was they told him it's not Yom Kippur. And he had Alzheimer's, and he had partial dementia. And throughout the day, sometimes they told him it's not Yom Kippur. But he insisted, if it's not Yom Kippur, I want to see you eating. If you will eat, then I will eat as well. And the family turned to me before Yom Kippur because they knew exactly what the situation is and what to expect on Yom Kippur. And I paskined, if need be, if there's no other way to go about it, yes, you eat on Yom Kippur if that's the only way to guarantee that your father will do the same. Goes without saying, if you could pretend to eat, pretend. There's no issue of Genevis Das in a situation like this. If you need to eat poches mekashir, eat poches mekashir. If you could pretend to be eating and then turn around and spit out the food, that is what you should do. But if need be, yes, you eat if it's the only way to guarantee that he will eat. Just like you are Machal Shabbos to save the person of another life. And it makes no difference whether the Choil himself is Machal Shabbos or someone else. So this very same Shaila was asked 350 years ago, and this is fascinating. In the days of the Chacham Tzvi in Amsterdam, there was a Beis Medrash called Eitz Chaim, and there was a kollel in that Beis Medrash going back 350 years ago. And they printed a Kovetz Teironi, which is an annual or twice a year publication in which there were articles written, Mamorim, by Chachmei Beis HaMedrash. Obviously, not all of them were great Gedolei Yisrael. So we have a Kovetz Eitz Chaim printed in the days of the Chacham Tzvi in Beis Medrash Eitz Chaim. There still is a library in Amsterdam next to the Portuguese Shiur called the Eitz Chaim. So if you ever visit Amsterdam, I strongly recommend visit the Portuguese Shiur. It goes back more than 300 years. One of the most magnificent shuls in the world. And they have a library, some of the most precious Kisvei Yad manuscripts in the Jewish world. They have one of the earliest Rambam's Mishnah Torah. And whenever I happen to be in Amsterdam, I visit the library and I visit the shul. So the Kovetz Eitz Chaim, one of the Talmidei Chachamim, published a mamar, an article about this very same question. His conclusion is no. There is no heter for Pliny to eat to guarantee that Almighty would eat. And that's an Isser Koros. I don't know who was the person that wrote that article. I must say it's not very convincing, and I disagree. And my psak was, if there's no other way to see to it that the Choyle eats, only if another person eats, yes, he should eat. So, the Gedolim, Chsam Sofer, Shoylem Esherev, Sol Salanter, Pischei Yolim, Mishnah Brurim, and many others, whether we're dealing with Tisha B'Av or with Yom Kippur, they felt that if we don't give a blanket psak to the entire community to eat, then we are afraid that some of the people that need to eat and some of the people whose life is in danger, because it's nagea for the entire tzibur, not for an individual, not for 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 or 20, but the entire community, and obviously many communities, not only one. The psak was even the healthy people should eat to guarantee that no one will pay with his life. So coming back to our time, what would my psak be? So regarding Tisha B'Av and Yom Kippur, I quoted the Lashon of the Shulchan Aruch. Ein tzorech oimed, chodesh tzorech lechol, machile noise miyad, de b'mukum choyle lo yigazru rabbonon. Reb Chaim Brisker, in Stencil, not in Grach, al Rambam, and we find basically the same in Orcha Shulchan and Siman Tov Reish Yud Ches. Not Tov Reish Yud Ches, that's Chodesh Sheshbes Korav Yom Kippurim. Tov Kuf Nun Daled in Hilchos Tisha B'Av. They both argue, but Mukam Choyle Lo Gazru Rabbanan means when a person is ill, there is no Tisha B'Av. There is no Tisha B'Av, and therefore there's no room, Pochas Mikashia. He has no chiyuv to fast. There's a story about the Briskerov, and it's so fitting for the Briskerov, so typical. So as the story is told, the person once told the Briskerov, he's ill, he doesn't feel well, his doctors feel that he needs to eat on Tisha B'Av, but he hopes to fast, and he wants to be machman, and his plan is to fast. Baruch Hashem, he wasn't the choyle sheyesh bo sakon. His life wasn't in danger. And the Briskerov responded, well, that's very nice, but if you want to fast on Tisha B'Av, don't forget Kabbalas Tanas b'mincha be'erev Tisha B'Av. Kabbalas Tanas erev Tisha B'Av. So the Briskerov said, B'mukum choyle lo gazra rabbanan, you actually don't have Tisha B'Av. So if you want to fast, it's a Tanas Yochid. And if it's on Tanas Yochid, you need to be Makabal Tanas b'mincha be'erev Tanas. So typical of the Briskerov. That's really razor sharp. So the lashon of the Shulchan Aruch is b'mukum choyle loy gazru rabbanan. But then we have the question: how do we define choyle? How do we define a choyle she'ein bo sakana? We know how to define a choyle sheyesh bo sakana. You consult your doctors. Is your life in danger, or is it not in danger? What is a choyle regarding fasting on Dalet Tzoymes? The concept of choyle is relevant in various different areas in halacha. One is Hilchos Shabbos, Shin Chav Ches, Sif Yud Zayin. Choyle she'ein bo sakana, we're matar amira lenachri. We're not matar shvusim, but he's entitled to take medicine. And we are mekel b'amira lenachri for choyle she'ein bo sakana. Tzoymes, fast days. This is the halacha I just quoted. Tov Kuf Nun Dalet Sivav. Choyle shetzorech lechal ein tzorech oimid machin oiseh biyad b'mukom choyle lo gazru rabbanan. Number 3. That's a Gemara in Pesachim Chov Dalet Amud Beis. We are matter and it's the rabbanan for a choyle she'ein bo sakana. How do we define a choyle she'ein bo sakana? The definition of a choyle she'ein bo sakana is not discussed in Hilchos Tisha B'Av, and neither in Yoredei regarding Issa D'Rabbanan for a choyle she'ein bo sakana. The only source we have to define a choyle she'ein bo sakana is Hilchos Shabbos, Shin Chav Ches Yud Zayin. And we find 2 different agdoras, 2 different definitions, Mechaber and Ramah. Shulchan Aruch writes Nofel HaMishkav. If he's in bed, the Ramah writes, Chola kol gufoi. His entire body is ill. So at first glance, it's a machlokes. Or maybe Maro Melchodev and Maro Melchodev Lo Pligi. Maybe both definitions are right. But my understanding and my havana, my interpretation is 2 sides of the same coin, and it's not a machlokes at all. So the Mechaber says Nofel HaMishkav. Loosely translated, he fell into bed. That is a very relative definition. We know some people, his natural state is being horizontal. His natural state is being in bed. Just give him an excuse and he'll be in bed. Nofel HaMishkav. The only reason he's not in bed is he needs to go to work, he needs to go to kollel. Just give him a reason, give him an excuse, and he will be happy to be in bed. And we know some other people that are hyperactive and kol oid nishmosoi ba'apa, he'll be running around. He can't be in bed. So when the Mechaber says Nofel HaMishkav, it's a relative definition. So that Ramah adds on chola kol gufoi, which means a general feeling of malaise, a general feeling of sickness. And we all know how it feels. When you have the flu, you don't feel well. You feel sick. You have a high fever, you feel sick. So many times you have a certain ailment, even a broken bone, and you have a cast on your arm, on your leg. That's not chola kol gufoi. Yes, you are a chola. So many times we have a medical condition, a medical problem, and we're taking medicine, and it might even be a very serious problem, but you don't have this general feeling of illness. So when the Ramah writes Cholak al Gufay, that is the same as Nafal HaMishkav, because usually normative people, when you're generally ill, you're in bed, you stay at home. And if you don't feel ill, then you will try to be up and around and do what you need to do. So I don't think this is a machlekes. I think these are two sides of the very same coin. But we don't find this definition only in Hilchos Shabbos. Does this apply to the other two halachas dealing with Chole She'ein B'Sakona as well? So this is a machlekes between two gedolim of our era. The Minchas Yitzchak was the Rav in Yerushalayim, one of the gedolim of our time, Rabbi Yitzchak Yankov Weiss, whom I knew very well, and Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach. So Rav Weiss argued Buzev Limed al Zeh. All these three halachas deal with the fundamental definition of a Chole She'ein B'Sakona, so they're probably the same. So who is the Chole that doesn't need to fast on Tisha B'Av or Shavuos B'Tammuz or Tzom Gedalia or Asara B'Teves? Nafal HaMishkav, Cholak al Gufay, Reb Shlomo Zalman argued, no. Maybe this definition is only relevant in Hilchos Shabbos, and it's a chumrah. But regarding tzaimis, if you have any medical condition, you could eat. Why would we differentiate between Hilchos Shabbos and other halachas? So Reb Shlomo Zalman's argument is, because in Hilchos Shabbos is a gzeira of shchikas hamamonim, and there is a prohibition, there is an isur to b'chlal take medicine. So if Chazal asur taking medicine, and on the other hand they were mekel by a Chole She'ein B'Sakona, so who was the one that won't take medicine? If he's healthy, the Mechaber paskins a body to take medicine. This entire prohibition is only for a Chole. If he's a Chole She'ein B'Sakona, he definitely could take medicine. So it was a necessity to limit the scope, to limit the concept of Chole She'ein B'Sakona, as if to leave room for Gzeiras Shchikas HaMamonim. But regarding fasting, maybe a Chole means anybody that has any illness, any ailment, anybody that's sick in any way. But I don't think this was Rabbi Shlomo Zalman's definitive psak. It's an argument, not a psak. And I definitely feel, especially Tisha B'Av, and not only Tisha B'Av, other tzaimis as well. If you're not really sick, fast. If you have a medical problem, no reason not to fast. It is only if you're really ill, you have a fever, you have the flu, you feel bad, it is only then that you could eat or drink on Tisha B'Av or even Shavuos B'Tammuz and the other tzaimis. So I think we should be machmir. We should be machmir in our definition of a Chole She'ein B'Sakona in Siman Tov Kuf Nun Daled, that doesn't fast. And the same rule, the same definition we have in Hilchos Shabbos, Cholak Kol Gufay Nafal HaMishkav, should be the baseline of our psak on Tisha B'Av and Shavuos B'Tammuz as well. So what's my psak regarding the coronavirus? When you give a psak in any field of medicine, you need to have some basic understanding about the subject matter. It's not enough to be the greatest Talmud Chacham. So I feel that the psak we discussed at the beginning of today's year, which is definitely a substantial psak. I think most of the Gedolim Paskin in the time of the cholera virus, cholera epidemic, that even the healthy people should eat. But that is relevant to cholera. It's not relevant to corona, to COVID-19. So the cholera virus affects the digestive system. And the most common symptom was an awful shilshul, an awful diarrhea. And people died from dehydration. Sometimes from malnutrition. But in the vast majority of cases, dehydration. And sometimes it was very fast because they could keep no fluids in their body. And that is why the Gedolim Paskin drink and drink and drink. eat and drink, because our body derives fluids not only from liquids, from food as well, from solids as well. And that was the basis of the psak. Even healthy people should primarily drink or eat as well. I consulted with top doctors I work with, and the consensus is fasting a day does not diminish your immune system. And therefore, there really is no reason for people that feel well, that are not ill, to eat or drink in the time of this pandemic. I got a letter from a very choshev doctor strongly arguing that our psak should be everyone should eat, everyone should drink. But it's legitimate that doctors have different opinions, just like it's legitimate that Rabbanim have different opinions, and I think human beings will always have different opinions about every question. It's part of human nature. It's part of the human experience. It goes without saying. The doctors I trust and the doctors I consult unanimously felt that there really is no reason for healthy people not to fast this time around. Unlike the cholera virus, which causes severe diarrhea, dehydration, and dehydration is a mortal threat, COVID-19 affects the pulmonary system. And it is important that you have a good immune system. But fasting a day in no way will diminish your immune system, and therefore there's no reason for people that feel well not to fast. So my psak is, if you're ill with COVID-19, that definitely is cholak kol gufay, that definitely is nafal and mishkav. Some of the symptoms are devastating. I spoke to people that had corona, and they were so schwach, so weak. One of them told me, I couldn't hold a pen. I couldn't lift a spoon. Goes without saying, I couldn't get out of bed. Some of them just have this awful feeling of illness, weakness, pain in their joints. So if you're anufal and mushkav or choyle kol gifo, goes without saying, that's the psak and the Shulchan Aruch. But if you're healthy, even if you need to be in isolation, you're healthy. I would even go to the extreme. You tested positive. But if you feel well and you're asymptomatic, I think you could fast. I don't feel entirely comfortable with paskening if you tested positive to fast. But by halachic definition, I think halacha doesn't recognize you as a choyle. So this virus is somewhere in your body, but if you feel well and you have no symptoms, then according to halacha, you're not a choyle. So those of you listening to this shiur, I want you to consult your Rav. I don't want to pass on for those people that tested positive and they're feeling well. My opinion is they could fast. But those that are basically healthy, even though many of them might be in isolation, but they're healthy and they didn't test positive, no reason not to fast. You're healthy, you're fine, you'll be well, no real reason to break your fast. And it's a schus to be makayim divrei neviim, tkonos neviim. And let us hope a korav that will there be no need to fast. Tisha B'Av abo aleinu l'toivo, and I say abo aleinu l'toivo because Al Chazal promised that ultimately these days will be transformed. L'sosanu l'simchu l'moyadim toivim.